Good afternoon. This is Rachel again from Infused Meadows, and I'm about to make Mexican shredded chicken. So I thought, why not show you how to do that? This chicken you can use in anything. Chimichangas, if you want to make a nacho plate with shredded chicken on it. If you want to do taquitos, trying to think, enchiladas. There's a lot of uses, or you can just eat it as is if that's what you want to do. So we're going to start with our spice mix. My jars are like, this is home. I grow as much as I can, and then I dehydrate and I powder it. So this is my garlic powder, onion powder, and then if I've had to buy something, like I don't grow cumin, so that is actual store-bought. But if I've bought something, and then I'll just continue to use the jars if they're convenient on my shelf. So that's why you may see this is chili powder. It is not whatever was in that. So yeah. Anyway, we're gonna start with this. So to our little bowl, we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of chili powder. For those in the US, not chili seasoning. You're not making chili. You just want chili powder. So that's basically, you know, your red bell peppers that have been dehydrated and ground up into a fine powder. With a few other peppers. I'll do a video on it. Anyway, so there's our chili powder. Next is our paprika. We are going to use 1 teaspoon. I apologize, my paper towel's over there. Sorry. This is a 1/2 teaspoon of paprika. And that's where I messed up. Paprika is your bell peppers. Chili powder is your, like your chilies and your kind. We'll get into it. I know, yeah, it's been a day. And it's still early. So, let me wipe this off. And then we're going to get to our salt. Salt is 1.5 teaspoons. I'm using the pink Himalayan, so 1/2. 1.5, so 1.5 total. Now, if you're in the U.S. and you're using a bouillon that you bought at the store, start with 1 teaspoon of salt instead of 1.5, because of the salt that's already in the bouillon, especially the bouillon powders. I don't want anybody to say, oh, it was too much. Yeah, I agree. It would be. So, like I said, start with 1 instead of 1.5. So this is my garlic powder. We're going to use 1 teaspoon. This is a 1/2 teaspoon measure, so we're going to do this twice. So 1/2, 1, there's garlic. We've got our onion powder. Again, homemade, homegrown. We're going to use the same 1 teaspoon, so we've got a 1/2 and 1. Next is cumin. I'm going to pause this for a second. I forgot my measuring spoon. Apologies. So we need 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. You can use up to a 1/2 teaspoon. I personally am not the biggest fan of cumin. It's just a bit much for me. So I only do 1/4 in this recipe. A lot of people like cumin more than I do. So you do you. You want to add more, add more. I wouldn't leave it out though. So if you want to go down to like 1/8 of a teaspoon instead of 1/4, feel free. So we're going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And then I've got a 1/2 teaspoon, let me clean this off, of oregano. Convenient little store jar. Oregano. And then that's all we need for our spices. So all you're going to do is literally just mix this up. If you do it in a jar, you can just give it a shake. I'm doing it in a bowl because I'm just about to use this. So I'll be pausing the video just so I can go get my chicken. I can show you how I trim my chicken up, but some people think I'm a little picky. I trim it because you never know, bones get left behind, and I don't like a lot of fat. So you're going to mix this all up, and then you have your spice mix. There you go. Alright, so I'm going to pause this while I clean all this up, and I will go get my chicken. Before I go grab my chicken, Gonna go ahead and get my chicken broth made up so that it's setting and ready to go whenever I need it. So this is homemade chicken broth. Literally dehydrated chicken, dehydrated parsley, paprika, apologies, pinch of sugar, salt, some black pepper, garlic, onion, mushroom, a little bit of ginger. Anyway, doesn't really matter, I don't guess. Anyway, so to this I'm gonna add a teaspoon, because I'm only doing, actually I'm gonna do a heaping teaspoon because I want to do a cup and a half for the chicken instead of just a half, 1 cup. So you're gonna fill this to 1.5 cups, or was it 350 ml? There we go. And then, forgot my spoon over there, so here's what it is. You're just gonna give this a stir. And then just push this aside and let it set until we're ready to use it. Be back. So I have my chicken, enough. And what I like to do is all this fat is going to come off. If you don't want to do this step, you do not have to. There's a bone. That's completely up to you. I do, for the exact reason that I just pointed out. That other one has a bone that's been overlooked is the word I'll use. So I don't take all the fat off. Some is okay. Just most of it. Especially the gristle. You just make small cuts. It's not a lot. You don't take half the chicken off. So let's move this one. And so I usually start with the side, just make a small cut under the fat, hold the fat up, and then use my knife to guide along where the actual fat or those blood vessels are. And then that's all you're doing. Just like that. That's where that bone's at. Oh. It's a little bit bigger than I thought it was. There we go. Bone. Sorry. Boneless, skinless chicken breast. There's a bone. That happens more than you'd think. Okay. That's done. I'm going to set that on that paper towel. So, we're going to take some of our seasoning. And what I do is I just sprinkle it over. Yes, some will get on the cutting board. It is what it is. We'll wash it up. And we're done. Nice chunk of garlic. We'll just take that chunk and set that on that paper towel. I use my knife to then press the seasoning into the chicken. We're going to do this on both sides. You go as heavy or as light on the seasoning as you want to go. I mean, I obviously don't do none. That's the point of the Mexican chicken. Anyway, flip this over and do it again. Same thing. Why do I do this? I don't want to pick my chicken up and all the seasoning fall off. Or most of the seasoning fall off. That defeats the purpose. So, just press it in. You can use the back of a spoon if you'd like. You don't have to use your knife. I just do. And I will say, shouldn't have to be said, but anything you do in the kitchen, make sure your hands are clean. I wash mine constantly. I've worked in kitchens, and I've been in the kitchen with my mama since I was young. So, anyway, I've got that done. I'm going to turn my stove on. You want to add a tablespoon, roughly, of oil of your choice to your pan. Let that get hot, and then we're going to sear both sides of this chicken. And I'll bring you back. So I have my pan on roughly medium high, and my oil's heating. Not a lot, just enough. And so once this is nice and heated, the chicken will go in. I'm old school. I just put my hand over the pan. I can feel the heat. The oil is moving around. So I'm going to add my chicken. And we're going to let this sear on each side. Maybe a minute-ish. You are not fully cooking the chicken right now. You're just searing it on both sides to get that seasoning nice and in there. I don't know any other way to put that. You're just cooking that seasoning on there, and you're getting a nice caramelization to your chicken on both sides. So I'll sear this for a minute, and I'll bring you back before I flip it. It's been about a minute, and I've washed my cutting board. So now I'm just going to flip that. See, nice and golden-ish chicken. We're going to cook this side for about another minute, and then I'll show you what to do next. So it's been about a minute. Just check that you've got a nice sear. You do. So what you want to do now, that chicken broth you set aside. You want to just add that to that. Okay, and then what I personally do, you can skip this step if you'd like, is I sprinkle some of my seasoning in here so that it helps cook into the chicken. We'll say about 2 tablespoons of it. You will have some seasoning left. It is what it is. What I do normally, I just haven't made this in last month. My husband and I really like this. Anyway, what you can store it in a little jar and then use it for next time. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this temperature down to medium. I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to set a timer for 16 minutes because we're boiling. So turn your heat down to, I guess, about medium. You want it to boil, but not aggressively boil. And so we're finished cooking our chicken. Once that's done, your timer should go off, obviously. And then you're just going to turn your heat off and walk away. When you walk away, all you're doing is you're letting this cool down until you can handle it. Once you can handle it, you're going to shred it. Some people use a fork. Some people use 2 forks. Some people use their hands. Up to you. Completely up to you. And then from there, once you get it nice and shredded, put it into whatever container you're going to do, unless you're using it immediately. I like to take about 3 to 4 tablespoons of my liquid and add that into my shredded chicken. Give that a toss, and that helps put the moisture back in because chicken, especially chicken breast, tends to dry out. So if you want to prevent that, then like I said, add about 3 or 4 tablespoons of your broth into your shredded chicken. Give that a little toss, and then use that however your recipe calls. If you're doing nachos, you're literally just going to throw it on the top of your nachos after you've done everything else that you like with your nachos. If you're doing chimichangas, then what I personally do is I saute up some onions and some peppers, and then I add my shredded chicken to that, give that a toss, and then I stuff that into my tortilla. And then roll that and fry that up. But that's for a whole separate video. I'll get to that whenever I make, chimichangas. You can use this in your enchiladas. You can use it in anything. You just use it however you like. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you have a wonderful day.